evening, good evening, good evening. Who gets to take part in a career-damaging video, but also reminds you to delete it immediately afterwards? It's us, the Thursday Night Podcast, American Scouser TV. ASTV if you're one of the cool kids like David Coote. And we're joined by a special guest tonight as well. I've got Brian and Trevor as always. How are you, boys?
Doing fantastic.
And then a free man tonight, so we brought him on. We've got Cozzy as well. How are you, Cozzy?
I feel very special again. I think this is like, is this 2 in 2 weeks, I think, or 2 in 3 weeks now, Mac?
Something like that, yeah. You're we have to pay an appearance.
You're no longer a super sub, yeah. You're being put on the Thursday night payroll.
Now you're under rotation.
I've forced my way into the first team.
At least we let you on here like Monday, the Monday guys.
Yeah, I was going to say you're on the Europa League rotation.
Gatekeepers.
I've had enough of those fucking Monday guys, man. They're boring as fuck. They're too scared to say that we're going to win the league or not. Petrified they are.
We're going to win the league. But here's what we're going to talk about tonight, because it's International Week, so we get to talk about slightly different things. Refereeing, of course, it's the big tale of the week and the month, and probably for the rest of the season. But my contention will be that it's all gone downhill since Howard Webb took over, and quite right, because he's a div, as they say back in that side of the Atlantic. Internationals, are they still a thing that improves players? I think Curtis Jones got a goal today, didn't he? I'm not sure whether it was his first England goal, but that will boost his confidence no end. But there was a time when playing for your country and getting a goal was going to turn you into a superstar. But with so many internationals these days and so many players getting caps, is it still as relevant as it used to be? And then Freddie Chiesa, is he made of glass? Do we have to get titanium knees or whatever that stuff Wolverine is made of just to get him onto a 5-minute appearance as a sub this season? The crazeess.
Adamantium, just so we can hashtag adamantium.
Adamant, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Will everybody else was nerding out, I was having sex.
Yeah, you can tell which one of the 30 crew gets all the ladies. Clearly, Trevor. He knows exactly what that is. So there we are.
But nevertheless, let us begin with the show. And of course, David Coote being caught on video twice now, apparently. One making disparaging remarks about Klopp and Liverpool Football Club, and then one inhaling disparaging remarks through, I think it was £1 now, or a £20 now, or a £50 now.
It was $1 bill.
$1 bill, even worse. But also, I saw something, boys, during my little investigations into the news, that there was apparently a scandalous picture a while ago. I don't know how far away it goes, of the Premier League referees on a nice night out in Thailand, I believe. I'm not sure how real that picture was or what the situation was, but scandalous nonetheless. You wouldn't get that stuff back in the old days when the referees were all teachers and bakers that were doing it part-time. But Brian, let's start with you. Howard Webb, he is not having a happy kingship right now, is he? It's essentially the fear that we had, that was jobs for the boys and that it was Howard Webb going to look after his mates. That's actually come to be true, and we aren't all tinfoil wearing Liverpool fans. There's clearly referees with agendas against us, and there's clearly referees who think they are bigger than the game.
Absolutely. I mean, we said this when Howard Webb came and started taking over the PGMOL. I mean, that this is going to turn into this type of thing because of the amount of ego that Howard Webb has. I mean, how many times have you already seen officials that have made subpar calls for Howard Webb to make excuses for them and say, oh, well, we really can't come in there and do anything. It was inconclusive, things like that. We had bad VAR calls. I mean, the list can go on right there. But again, Howard Webb is a very egotistical person. He was egotistical when he actually officiated in the league before. I mean, he made the match his match versus going there and making the players, making the team's matches. So, I mean, I'm not nowhere near surprised that this has been a giant shit show with Howard Webb because it's who he is.
Here's a picture of him calling the referees to tell them what decisions to make against Liverpool, clearly, as he's watching. But Trevor, it's something that we get laughed at as Liverpool fans, all these little conspiracy theories and all that over the past few years. we can rightly say Manchester City may have financially massaged their accounts to allow them to be in title-winning positions they probably didn't legally deserve to be in, per the rules of the Premier League. And we've always said that there were refs that are clearly against us and give us bad decisions that hurt us. One being the Raheem Sterling non-offside against City that year when Rodgers was the manager. It was such a disgraceful call. And, you say these things at the time, but, you got to get back into the rational world and say, okay, maybe it was an honest mistake, but there's too many of them, but maybe it was but now we know clearly there are refs who are going out to screw definitely Liverpool, if not one or more other teams. It really, this entire episode just takes the knees out from the integrity of the PGMOL, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's something where it's a bit of I feel it's a bit of a mask off for the entire refereeing brethren for the league as a whole, because there's no way that Coot is this guy that is just this renegade. He's this one that is just off to make his own bed, and he's just gonna be against the Liverpool teams, and he's just gonna be that way forever. There's something where there, and we'll see as time wears on, that there's probably definitely people in that entire refereeing circle that are saying, they're like, oh yeah, Dave, you fucking knocked that one out of the park, brother. Like you're really just you're doing us a good service in making these things. But more than anything, in the end, I think he's going to land on his feet in Saudi Arabia, so we still don't got to worry about David Koo on that front. But if there is more that comes from this, if it's more of people that have seen it and dealt with it, where everybody's just going to start digging through results, everybody's going to start just going through every single decision in every game, and it's going to be a rabbit hole. In my opinion, I think we just plug it and get Coot the fuck out of here and let him just go on his merry way to JD Vance Couchland and just do whatever he's going to do wherever he is, but anywhere but the Premier League. I couldn't give a fuck what he does now that he's a persona non grata.
Couchland does sound like the kind of store JD Vance would actually shop at now, to be fair. Because I'm saving this question for you.
He'd be banned from that store.
Probably, yeah, that's probably true. And have a massive cleaning bill from it. I'm saying this question for you because we're both from the same side of the Atlantic, and we were around for a good portion of Liverpool's travails in the 90s and 2000s and stuff. During the time of Manchester United's dominance, there was always rumours that Howard Webb was, number one, a Man United fan, number two, a Freemason along with Alex Ferguson. That was one of the more fruity kind of rumours. But definitely the thing that seems to come out from this is that at the very least, what we can say with complete definition is that Howard Webb is morally corrupt.
This such a bigger thing, this, gents. It really is, like, of what we kind of speaking on a high level here, but if you actually kind of look into this, I don't think Coot has done much wrong apart from it being recorded. That's just my opinion. I think there's other referees who are going to sit there and go, I think this club's shit. And let's get it right. Oh, he's called Jurgen Klopp a cunt. Okay. Jurgen Klopp was a cunt on the sideline. Whether we like that or not, to the fourth officials, he was one. Right? And they are going to, because they're only human beings, they're going to already establish an opinion about the person due to their interactions. And their interactions with Jurgen Klopp have been, as Jurgen Klopp is in the most intense he could probably be in his whole life, managing in a football match at Liverpool Football Club when you're trying to get 100 points. He is going to be a cunt. And whether we like that or not, that's by the by. The second, of course, a part of this is little recreational drug taking, let's say. He's going to lose his job. No problem at all. We already know that. You'll never be able to referee a game again. This thing of like kind of looking into previous decisions and past decisions of what Coot's done. We already knew Coot was a poor referee. Coot was a really bad referee. Do I think he's purposely went out there and said, I'm not going to give Liverpool decisions? Not sure. I'd probably not, because I don't think they could be asked with the headlines themselves. I think you forget the scrutiny that referees are under. So I don't think that is the thing here. The mad thing is, I go back to Howard Webb, because that's kind of the case in point here. I always have an issue with a referee who was a police officer in the South Yorkshire Police. And whether we like that or not, we don't need to go into it on the show, is a thing. And South Yorkshire Police have a thing for Liverpool and the people surrounding areas of Liverpool, based on various things that have happened in the past, which I'm sure we know about. So I will always have that thing in the back of my head of like, and listen, how I've done some mad decisions. The one that stands out to me is the Mascherano sending off at Old Trafford was always a mad one to me. I think he was the referee then. And then that's when Ryan Babel did the famous tweet, which he's the first player to ever get suspended on the back of a tweet. Ryan Babel in the history books. But I will always have issues with people coming from that kind of background, which Howard Webb is. And what happens now, gents, I don't know. I think we get to a stage where we need more transparency from referees. I don't think Howard Webb having a very vanilla TV show with Michael Owen once a month to talk us through decisions. By the way, not even the decisions that we want you to talk to. Not even like a voted decision. Like the fans get to vote on which the ones we want you to have a chat about. No. We'll just still pick the ones that we're going to speak about when we don't really
we don't need your cherry-picked fucking referee content. No.
Exactly. We're just going to cherry-pick the ones that are half decent and just go with them. So I don't think that's the case. I actually think this is a watershed moment for the PGMOL. I do think there's a part where they will need to give us more transparency. I do think eventually you're going to get to a stage where you do start seeing referee interviews after games to explain decisions. And by the way, just explain them. Just say, that's why I give it. Not if you think it's right or wrong. I think it's right, and that's why I give it. Whether you disagree or not, that's by the way. By the way, most tackles are subjective. A tackle is subjective. Offside is not. That's why the lines work. It's not subjective. You're either offside or you're not. But a tackle is a red card, is a yellow card. That's all subjective. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, I got the sworn blind. I thought Bruno Fernandes should have been banned for 3 games when he got sent off a few weeks ago. And then I got overturned. My head fell off. I couldn't believe it. But that's subjective. So that's what I think the referees come out as. And the last case in point on this, gents, which we really need to think about, if there's any decisions with Liverpool this year, 50-50s, Liverpool are fucking getting them, I'm telling you. I am telling. Like, there's going to be someone you're like 70-30 in the opposition favour and Liverpool get the decision. And you're like, ooh, not sure about that one. Because they will want to right a few wrongs. And whether, I know they might like to say like 2 wrongs don't make a right. They definitely fucking do in this case in point. Because we already know this, lads, because we watch a lot of footy. Referees, if they make a mistake in the first half, they always want to go out and try and make it up to you in the second half. So they'll tell you that 2 wrongs make a right. They do it all the time. So I just feel like we're getting to the stage where this is a watershed moment in our sport in terms of what they're going to have to open up and let us know what's happening here.
Good process, lads.
Brian, for the standard of refereeing, there's been calls in the media, in the British media at times for, foreign referees to go into the Premier League. And it did begin, if I remember, from my old memory, like when Pierluigi Collina was refereeing, because he was just so good that you just wanted him in the English league. But is this adding fuel to that argument that maybe the Premier League, being such a worldwide global phenomenon, probably needs to expand its net of referees a bit more worldwide? Because if Coot is considered one of the top referees in England to be, because you have to go through the levels. There's something clearly wrong with the assessment factors, because he is dreadful.
But would you want a referee from like Azerbaijan or like from Greece or something like that through there? I mean, that's.
I think the case is so right. If you have the best league in the world, why don't you just go and get the best referees? We have the best
absolutely.
So why can't we
I
stop
mean,
the bet? And that's where they're
I mean, if
from.
we could do it, I mean, if we could come there and do it, just like you would pick like a regular club right there and say, okay, we're gonna PGML goes and grabs the best referees in there and say, okay, we're the top league, we're gonna grab the top referees right there, and they agree to come there, and that agreement goes through. Perfect, fine, I'm all for it. But I guess more or less right there, it's going to happen eventually when the Super League happens. We all know that we're going to have the best referees and the referees anyway, but on another topic. But I mean, if we're able to go in there and actually grab up the top, but again, these are taken from other leagues too. I mean, are we going to share? Could we have like a whole share thing for throughout UEFA or throughout the world, where the top officials being able to rotate through and actually, and maybe that would improve the entire officiating? Because I mean, I've seen crap officiating in Spain just as much as I've seen it in England, and same thing in France. I've seen some really questionable calls. Same thing in Italy. I mean, so I mean, you can cherry pick like the top like officials from each country, but what about those countries right there in the same essence right there? I mean, it's you can say right there that is Anthony Taylor on par with another referee that's in France? I mean, probably. I mean, it's a hard to say. I mean, if we could go out there and accomplish that, but again, I think that the problem is going to be the freedom of movement right there for the officials throughout countries. If that exists, I mean, that's one thing, and also the thing with having. Are you going to be able to support your bottom line officials that come up through the ranks? But I mean, overall, I think the problem is right there is that automation really needs to go in there and have a big play in the game anymore, at this level anymore. Because I mean, when we're going to the point of we're making decisions by like a toe, basically for offside call and stuff like that on there. I mean, there needs to be some kind of realism right there that goes to it in there. So almost like how you have like the proposed offside rules, things like that. I mean, there needs more common sense refereeing, and I guess I could say if we adapted more common sense things, then I think a lot of these questions would probably go away.
I think though, if you take the flip side of it, instead of getting referees from Azerbaijan to the Premier League, we could just send David Coote to Azerbaijan and never have to worry about him again because we'll never be seen again. Here's the thing though, Trevor. And Cosy knows this because he's from there. Like Brexit puts a spanner in the works in that plan in general because you can't just move from anywhere into England anymore. Like that freedom movement is gone. But the criteria for getting people in to work in the talent industries, let's say, means that by definition they have to be the best in their field.
I'm calling referees talent now. I'm just.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But in order for like players to be brought into England to the English clubs, they have to be visibly the best. You know, you can't just bring like a random 16-year-old from an amateur club without having to explain to the British immigration officials why this player has to be at Liverpool or has to be at Manchester United or whatever. So if that proposal actually ended up happening, would it be the case that the Premier League would be getting the best referees? And more importantly, Howard Webb being he just gives the air of being one of those little Englanders that travel around with England and with their no surrender to the IRA flags all the time, that he just wouldn't like to have the foreigners in his league taking the jobs from his friends.
Yeah, I'll put this just as a flat statement. Like Howard Webb is a guy that doesn't really have the pulse of the society in his palm at all. It's one of those ones where you're sitting there just going, well, you've been told to color inside the lines, but I'm going to tell you why the fact that these scribbles are entirely valid. And it's really sad at this point. And I expect nothing less from him for all the points that have been brought up about his background and his just allegiances over time. Because he's a guy that has been just unapologetically against a lot of things, but just kind of failed up in various instances. And now he is kind of the czar of all of the refereeing referenda so to speak, in the league, and it's something where you'd hope that there could be discussions about, well, we see that this is something that is consistently a problem, and he just kind of gives it the old like peekaboo, like, no, you don't see it anymore. It's not a problem. I fixed it. I'm so good at what I do. There's no problems anymore. But now with the Coot thing, there's kind of like just, oh shit, your dog not only pissed on the rug, but it brought the rug in front of a wide audience, and the piss was in the shape of like a pick your poison for just. Do you want the piss to be in the shape of a swastika? Do you want the piss to be in something even worse? Like, what do you want? That it's something where you have him sitting here dead to rights, and he immediately just goes for the immediately, oh, that's AI. Like, yeah, AI is going out of their way to fucking completely track the entire facial movements of fucking David Coot. Are you kidding me? That's the deep fake that AI is aiming for? A fucking 7th string referee that everybody knows has a 100% record for Manchester City, but nobody else gives a flying fuck about? Yeah, that's where the European Union deep state UEFA fucking industrial complex, David Coot, that's their shot right there. That's what they're aiming for.
Okay.
And then Howard Webb is just sitting there like, well, okay. That's his thing. His thing is just like it all plays out, and he just goes, well, we'll just move him along. We'll kind of just give him an old you don't do that again. I'm not even going to hit you with a ruler. I'm not even going to nun you. And then it just sucks. And the grand thing, it just sucks. And you wish for there to be a better resolution to this, but in the end, I don't know. I've just had all the positive hopes of this coming to a positive fruition just shot the fuck out of me. I'm just gonna go sit in the corner.
Well, how do you really feel, Trevor?
I feel it feels like he's at like a therapist chair. He's on the bed.
It feels like he's like Kazi brought the Friday morning Illuminati right there too.
You can tell he's on the East Coast and he's on the West Coast.
Is it? Oh, go ahead, Kazi.
On an overall thing here, Mac, right? It's shit. It really is. And I know you understand what Matt is saying. It is shit because you don't want to be in this position. I don't want to fucking talk about referees. I want to go back to a time when I just didn't know a referee's fucking name, and he just showed up, and he just went, yeah, and he just gave shit. Listen, shit decisions are going to happen. They make mistakes. We all get that. The argument is here, though, fella, is that these lads though are paid. I think they're like on 150k a year, which in the UK puts them in the top 0.3% of earners probably. They're on £1,000 a match. So they're on so David Coot shows up to Liverpool for £1,000. Look at that Mo Salah challenge with Leon Bailey and go, that's not a foul. Are you fucking serious? You shouldn't get paid for that mistake. In work, you get fired for that. In a normal job. And this is the problem here. The Premier League need to get back in conjunction with the PGMOL and bring them back under their umbrella. You can't be a separate entity. You need to be managed by the Premier League. The difference is with the Premier League, they can't even manage themselves. They have no idea what's going on. They can't even manage the 20 fucking clubs that are in it. Do you know what I mean? So I just feel like we need to kind of, but going back to the point of the foreign referees, like the Premier League should have the best referees around the world. Doesn't matter where they come from, what country they come from. We have the best players in the world, no matter what country they come from or what language they speak, but we can't get the best referees. That is fucking asinine. We're fucking playing for money and figures that literally change people's lives, ridiculous amounts of money. I want the fucking best person officiating that, and that's how it should be. But it really is a shit situation. And Howard Webb, mate, listen, he's suspended him, and it's the right thing to do. I think he eventually will fine him. I really do. But I just love how it's progressively getting worse for Coot. Like, it started with calling Klopp a cunt, and now he's snorting coke. We're going to find out that he fucks dogs, and then he was a part of 9/11 somewhere, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. You know what I mean?
Get worse until we find out he's actually an Everton fan, and then it won't get any worse than
and
that.
at the end of it all, he was Jack the Ripper, and then they're just going to find out he was an Everton fan all along, which kind of makes more sense. But,
is he eligible for Trump's cabinet yet?
Go on.
So let's finish up on foreign referees and international thoughts, and then move on to international football, because that's what it is. International Football Week. Not the real football, of course, despite the Ireland winning today against Finland, which is great for me. And then Curtis Jones getting his first goal. But it just, I was being on one of my typical nostalgia trips that I go down fairly frequently, Brian, and going on YouTube and looking at old soccer games from the 80s. The big match, Cozzy, is on YouTube. Full episodes of the big match from the early 80s, late 70s, which I used to love watching every Sunday in the grandparents. But it kind of reminded me of a time when, and I had a debate with somebody there a couple of months ago, that there was a point in the 90s when Ireland had one of the best international midfields in European football, at least. It was like Andy Townsend, Paul McGrath, like Ray Houghton, and Roy Keane then later on kept coming in. And then we had
Paul McGrath was a sensational centre
back. Yeah, Mark Lawrenson is a centre back as well, like in the Ireland team. And we did have Aldo as well up front, to be fair. He was fantastic. But you know, there was a time when being an international footballer meant something. There were so few games given out that getting a cap meant something. And it just seems to me, with the proliferation of games and the elimination of friendlies, essentially, for that European nation leagues in Europe, at least, Brian, international games don't have the same weight that they used to. Every game's almost competitive, so it's there's no chance to experiment, and because of that, I think a tournament like the Nations League it's like the early rounds of the League Cup. You just throw your kids on. Nobody cares. Harry Kane complaining this week about all the call-outs from England, because why would you want to injure yourself at this point of the season, especially if your team's up for something? So for all three lads, we'll start with Brian. Have internationals lost their sheen? And does Curtis Jones getting a goal mean anything these days? Because, you know, he's probably not going to get into the first proper competitive England team starting 11 that comes up.
I mean, before Curtis Jones, wasn't that English squad missing had 9 players that basically said they refused to call up, something like that. So I mean, it's basically a second tier England side. So I mean, I don't think that Curtis Jones will probably really matter in the long run, because I put him in maybe as a sub, but as a starting 11, he's probably not the best of the midfield options there are for England at the moment. As far as the internationals go. And this goes back to what we talked about so many times. All four of us have talked about way too many matches in the calendar. I mean, we watched right there from post pandemic all the way through to here. These players are just getting run down to the ground. And I mean, for meaningless international matches that they created this Nations League right there, which used to be. So it used to be right there with all international matches that the two countries came together. Hey, let's have a match. And, and it came there and went down that, we established a friendly. Hey, so-and-so's country's coming to my country. We're going to play a friendly, and it'll be a good thing, good gesture right there for everybody. Now it's gone to where UEFA / every other conference throughout the world underneath the FIFA umbrella puts the fixtures out there for these Nation League Cups right there, and say basically, this is your group that you're in. You're going to play this right there. So they're making it as a competitive competition. So it all leads up to the Confederations Cup / World Cup, etc. So again, we're just playing matches to play matches now. I mean, it's kind of done. I mean, you could, for instance, look at Andy Robertson. That's a prime example right there. Still coming out there, and and would I knock him for playing for his country? Not at all. But when you're watching how many matches that he's actually played in between us and Scotland, the guy's legs are done. I mean, they're toast. I mean, right there from the amount of fixtures that he's played, and you're seeing also the amount of injuries that are accumulating right there because of these international matches. I applaud some of these, like say for instance Egypt, that basically told Salah, "Hey, there's no need for you to come here." I applaud people doing that, but there's a lot of these other countries who continually call up players left and right, out, and the clubs are basically left with nothing in their hands right there. Yeah. Yeah, the clubs are basically left with nothing in their hands right there when they have an injured player, injured star player. I mean, look, Salah's a prime example from the African Nations Cup. He came back to us, and we basically lost him for 2 months for the most part, and his prime. And I mean, so you think about that, Tom, right there, that amount of points that we possibly could have accumulated during that part. I mean, we were doing the whole quad thing at the moment and stuff like that. And, and our form seriously dropped after that point. I mean, to a point that we didn't go there and get into that we won the League Cup. That's all we won out of all this, the hope and glory that we had. Of course, it was a lot of hype, but either way, right there, it's too many matches, way too many matches for these guys right now. I mean, and it's a lot of travel. I mean, look at McAllister. It's another example right there of the past couple of matches. His form has dropped in my opinion right there. Is he still pivotal for us in our midfield? Absolutely. But going back and forth when you would basically have an international break every 4 weeks or 3 weeks, it seems like right there. I mean, eventually right there, traveling back and forth to Argentina, playing 2 90-minute matches to Argentina, flying back, going through sets and reps right there, playing, and then going and playing 6 matches for Liverpool, then going back out, doing the same thing. After a while, man, your body can't take that after a while, and you're just going to drain yourself down. That's my take on it. I just think that these players are getting driven into the ground by these international fixtures.
Trevor, and I talked about there's more teams. I didn't even realize there's going to be more teams in the 2026 World Cup. I remember 1990. I remember 1989. In fact, Ireland getting through, confirming qualification for the 1990 World Cup with the game over Malta, a 2-0 win, I believe it was. I think Malta just got both of the goals. But it was a huge thing for Ireland to get into the World Cup. We didn't expect anything, and yet we managed to get into the quarterfinals and losing to Italy eventually. But the penalty shootout game against Romania, it was a dire game for 90 minutes and plus extra time. But it brought a country that was experiencing some of the worst unemployment and some of the worst poverty that we'd ever experienced since the famine, probably in the 1800s, a huge lift. But it took an effort to get there. We had to win games in tight group games. I think we may have drawn with Spain. I think we had to beat Northern Ireland, which was a tough game. And then in those days, Northern Ireland used to have really good sides. But now, if we're going to get into 2026 with more teams, we'll be looking at the likes of San Marino, making their debut in the World Cup. And who's going to watch San Marino against Ireland in 2026? Because we're not that good. Well, yeah, to be fair, we'll all watch it. But has the currency of international football been devalued by having so many games and so many competitive games, and by opening it up almost kind of, let's give everybody a trophy about it, rather than these are the 16 or the 32 elite countries in the world that get to play every 4 years. Right now, these are the teams that deserve to be at the World Cup, and not these are the teams that deserve to be at the World Cup. And then all these other guys have come along as well. Is that currency being devalued?
I think FIFA views it as something where more teams means more money, which I get it that you're going to have more games, and I guess it's more television revenue. And just
that just makes me think that FIFA is being run by the same guys who run kids soccer tournaments over here. More teams equals more money, and the car parking is crap as well.
You got to get the fee up front. You can't you got to make sure they bring their own cones, because there's a fee if you don't if you have to use the tournament's cones. That's a big thing right there. You can't come coneless. But the international breaks right now, they do feel hollow. And as much as a soccer fan, I don't want to disparage the wholesome good name of the Nations League. It is something that is built entirely out of just a fallacy. We're like, oh well, you have the promotion relegation. Like, who gives a fuck if Liechtenstein gets to play Iceland one day? Who really cares if, oh man, Scotland can really survive relegation and they won't have to play Armenia next year? Oh wow, really tune into this. Like, it's something that is just entirely bred out of nothing. They're trying to make, as Brian said, they're trying to make friendlies that are being scheduled to just kind of like have that handshake and be like, oh, there's players from this one club team playing for both nations, and we're just going to have ourselves a little fun time, and then there's going to be a friendly, and then you're going to do that. Because the Euro qualifiers now are just kind of like, you can't really tell on the calendar what is a quote-unquote competitive game and what is just this weird amalgamation of fixtures on the side of it. And it does. I think it does devalue the international product as a whole. And if you got people like young Harold Kane getting pissed off that people are turning down the opportunity to go face Greece for that chance to make the absolutely illustrious quarterfinals of the Nations League. Like, there's so much at stake for these guys on their club level. And I think when it becomes a Euro qualifier thing, I think their attitudes are going to severely change on that that call up will he, won't he. But yeah, in the end, I think the Nations League as a whole, it's an evil we're just gonna have to deal with. But I'm not gonna fault anybody for turning it down. I'm not gonna fault anybody for not really caring about it, and I'm not gonna fault the the confederations themselves for not going full bore into the pool.
Because for us having regular footage, regular viewings of because there's so few and far between of England playing. I know you're hopefully more Scouse than English. But I remember Michael Owen bursting onto the England scene. We already knew who he was from Liverpool, but then he goes and takes Argentina apart, and then you go, as a Liverpool fan, you go, that's our player. He's our boy. Look at that. And then I remember the day. The day was fantastic. Ireland beats Holland 1-0 with Jason McAteer, ex of Liverpool, scoring a fantastic goal, but from a Steve Finnan, who was not yet a Liverpool player, I don't believe. He was just about to be doing like cry of turn against the Dutch, and then that evening, England hammering Germany 5-0. Was it? It was 5-1. Yeah, it was 5-1.
I didn't know.
And all Liverpool scores.
I was say it was Liverpool 5, Germany 1.
Yeah, Liverpool 5, Germany 1. I mean, in those days, I don't want to say it was so rare. It was like diamonds, but there weren't as many internationals. So an occasion like that becomes memorable. And as a Liverpool fan, you got to see Kevin Keegan, fulfill, if you're in the 70s, fulfill Bill Shankly's prediction that he was going to play for England when he met him the very first time before he signed him on the FA Cup against Arsenal in that final. We don't have that anymore, do we? That kind of drama is gone, isn't it? Because there's just so many games. Just, oh look, there's another kid getting a cap. oh look, Kwanzaa's got a cap. That's great. It doesn't afford players the chance to announce themselves like Gascoigne would or like Ben Hoddle did.
I think there's a part of this, lads, where I think there's what both of you have said, and also you actually, and I think there's a lot of context as well that needs to be added. Number one of like, is the allure gone from international football? Yes. And the reason why the allure's gone, lads, is because when we were growing up, you couldn't watch these foreign players. So when you watched them, you watched them in the World Cup. You didn't know Roberto Baggio was until he tore the arse out of the World Cup in '90. You just heard this like thing that me and Macka growing up, you watch on Channel 4 in the mornings on a Sunday morning for an 45
or Mitza Notti if you missed it on Sunday.
There you go. But, you had this like, now, if I want to watch Lionel Messi, I can watch Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi would have been like a mythical figure growing up until you played him in the Champions League or you watched him and you're like, who the fuck is this freak? Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's what it would have been. But in terms of social media and the internet now, I can look at every single player in the world. So I think the allure's gone there in that sense of like, we know what these players are. We know what they're like. We watch them every week. You know what I mean? And that's why I do think, going back to what Mark said with the 80s and stuff like that, that players were remembered back then of like, I had no idea if Marco van Basten was good. I know he retired at 27 with injuries. But I've seen a few goals. He looked great. Did you watch him every week? No. Everyone tells me that Johan Cruyff was amazing. Yeah, I've seen 20 minutes of clips. Would you judge a player on 20 minutes of clips? His best clips? I thought Naby Keita was the fucking second coming of Steven Gerrard. We got that wrong because of YouTube clips. So let's, you know what I mean? Let's pipe that a bit in. So yes, is the allure lost? Yes, and I think that's the reason. Going back to the point of this, of like, is there too many international games? Probably. But this international break was always scheduled in the schedule before the Nations League. It was just friendlies. They just turned it into something. And the reason why they turned it into something is because FIFA and UEFA are trying to compete with each other. FIFA want the Champions League, but UEFA would love the World Cup. Do you know, in a mad way? That's why they're building the Club World Cup. They want the Champions League. They want what the Champions League is, which is the greatest spectacle, in my opinion, of football in the world, of what you can get for drama and all that kind of stuff. When you get into the late knockout stages of the Champions League, I don't think there's better football you could ever watch in terms of everything that you need. I remember watching that game with Real Madrid and City a few years ago when Madrid beat them. We went on to the final. And City were winning the game, and then Madrid scored too late on. It was just fucking pandemonium, and it was just amazing. That is what they want. The reason why this is all getting turned in, lads, is like, is there too many games? Yes. But is there too many games at club level? Yes. So we can't just sit here and blame the international break or blame the international teams. They have their right, if they've got a schedule, to pick their best players, and they have every right to do that. What should happen is, again, it comes back to a bigger and broader point that no one's mentioned. There's a football regulator of going, these lads can't play no more than 60 a season. But the problem is, if Liverpool go far and go to all these quad that we want to do, I think Liverpool can play like 60-odd, 70-odd games to win the fucking quad, which is nigh on impossible, then going usually into a summer tournament. So there has to be a bigger conversational chat about what happens here. I think that we are trying to make smaller things about not having no FA Cup replays. Do I agree with that? No. Because I like the idea of little, smaller clubs, let's say, getting a replay and playing in Liverpool again at Anfield. You earn your right to do that. But then do I also think that the future of a fucking football club should be made if a bum from League One pulls your fucking number out of a hat to secure your future for 10 years? No. Do you know what I mean? So it all comes down to more. Everyone goes, we need the replays back. No, you need to be funded properly. The Premier League needs to send money down to you and go, the reason why the Premier League is so good and it exists is because you lads are coming up, like your Ipswiches, like your Lutons, and you're coming up, and Ipswich go to Spurs and beat them last week. And that doesn't happen without these smaller clubs. Do you know what I mean? And it shouldn't be relied on if Peter Crouch decides to pull your fucking 37 out of a hat to secure your club's future for 10 years. But I'm going on a tangent a little bit. But going back to the international thing and the more games, internationals, they have their right, the countries, to pick their best players. And the players have their right to go and play for their country and represent their country, no problem. The argument is here, though, lads, is that, is it needed? Is the competitive nature needed of the games? I'm not sure. And I think the main point of laying off the allure, I do really think social media and the access that we get to watch these football players really does affect. I remember watching, the reason why I'm such a big football fan, I remember watching the 2002 World Cup growing up in Japan and Korea. I'll let you in on the secret, lads. I had the Ronaldo haircut for school. right? Because I could never seen anything like that in my life when I was watching that Ronaldo in that World Cup with that team. I'd never seen it because you couldn't see it, Mac, when we were growing up. And Brian, Trevor, I'm sure you're the same. You couldn't see it until you got that Southern tournament and you're like, who is that? Do you know what I mean? Who is that freak? Who's Ronaldinho? Who's Rivaldo? I've heard of these names, but they all come and they all get together and they're fucking like the Harlem Globetrotters in what they're doing on a football field. And that was the buzz and the allure, but that's gone now. And international football can't come back from that, unfortunately, because of the rise of social media.
I don't believe that for a second. You never had her.
Yeah, we didn't get anything like that until like Fox Sports World came around. That was the first time we really got to see these players. Before then, it was all pay per view, and you basically paid $9.99 to like Centanta or name the rip off company that you can think of right there that would charge us for that stuff like that. But hey, about your Ronaldo thing, I have an opposite Ronaldo one. The ball spot right through there.
You spoke about Naby Keita there, because that brings us nicely onto this lad here, Federico Chiesa, with his X-rays, for he is made of X-rays. We expected a lot. We talked about when he was being signed. Brian,
a lot, really? What did you expect? What did you said you expected a lot. What did you expect?
No. We, as a Liverpool fan, I expected him to get injured. If you could check the Discord, which you should all be signed up to, I said the day he was signed, he's going to get injured. Every Italian we signed,
I called him cryptocurrency.
Seriously, he's an NFT in soccer player form. He just doesn't exist. But you were talking before we went on
he's
there.
An NFT. He's not fucking training.
Yeah, not training. Very well done, Trevor. That's right. That's the show. Good night, everybody. We can end on that line. But Brian, we talked before we went on air about Slot saying something along the lines of, he's getting another pre-season. And to me, it's a little bit disingenuous, because even if he wasn't being played in Italy, that means he should be more preserved and more energetic. I just believe that Italian soccer doesn't prepare Italian players for the Premier League, the pace of it. And I also think Italian players are made of wet paper occasionally. The ones who do make it, like the Canio and Zola, tend to be incredibly tough lads. And Attilio Lombardo, let's just for us baldies, let's bring that name in here. He was a fantastic bald player.
Ravanelli. Come on.
And Ravanelli, yeah, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
But he was injured a lot, if I remember correctly.
He was. He's only there for a couple of years. I think he had a year at Middlesbrough and Derby.
Yeah. Derby, yeah. And then Vialli was injured a fair bit. And he was a lovely player, though.
Yeah. They all look good. We can't argue that. They're all good.
Yeah, they look fantastic. You wouldn't want to watch. You wouldn't want to watch an Italian soccer game with your wife. That's all.
Definitely not.
But Brian Chiesa, I mean, what's the story? He looks promising, as they all have, as Aquilani did.
I was about to say that. I was about to say Aquilani right
great, there. But are we in for another Aquilani here? Is it another Naby Keita, and we just paid money for another crock yet again?
So when I saw the topic come up there, when you were going to mention Chiesa, I was going to think about. I want to reserve the rights right there for him. I mean, yeah, he came there, went through. He actually had a pretty decent stats last season in Italy. I mean, if you look at his numbers,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, he came there, went through like 2 years ago, went through that the really bad injury they went through, and he worked himself back through that point. But I mean, coming into this country from Italy is got to be a big culture shock right there as far as footballing. I mean, that of course, but I mean, just the level of play is different. I mean, the pace is different. The tackles are different. I mean, because if you think about Italy's a more defensive type of league in the long run. I mean, it's how they play. It's a lot more build up. It's a lot more. It's a lot more presentation to their matches. Where it's like fucking 300 miles per hour up and down the pitch. I mean, if you look at most matches, I mean, our squad this year is a little bit different because we're actually playing with the ball, but most of the teams are counter-attacking teams out there who run with the ball. I mean, so in this type of system is more along the lines of a Chiesa type system where he can actually go and take the time, pass, and look for the perfect moments to it. The problem is right there is getting himself worked into the fitness level Because even after my understanding was there, even in Italy, when he played in Italy, he did come up with a knock toward the end of the Euros. So he had to actually sit out for a couple of weeks before he could actually get himself back into fitness. And Juventus basically said, "Hey, guess what? We don't care. You're not part of our issue of us. You can go play the kids, kind of like what Chelsea did with half their squad. It's in the same essence. So, but for 12 million, I mean, I don't think you can't really say it's a bad investment yet. I mean, until you can actually go and see what he can do. He's still young. I mean, he's really not even. He's 26 years old. I mean, so. I mean, technically, right there, he's still in the realm of to actually grow. I mean, so in my opinion, right there, I mean, I want to see what the second half has for Chiesa. Give him the time right there. He needs to go there. Even you have to let him go back with the U21s and let him have just a kickabout just to get him up into match shape. Kind of like what Harvey's been doing right there with the U21s, kind of doing warm-ups, trying to get himself worked back in to the squad right there. I mean, to get him into the fitness to go there, to go into the league, right, to go into the second half. But I'm not giving up on Chiesa yet, because I think he's a really brilliant player. If you watch him, I mean, he can play every position up in the front. I mean, you can use him with. So I mean, I can't. I want to see what is left of him, and I'm glad they squashed the rumors about selling him, sending him out on loan, because I don't think I think that would do nothing but crush the player. And I mean, ultimately, because I mean, I still remember watching that video of him he came when going into the stadium and looking at stuff, looking at our trophies. I mean, looking at things like that. I mean, he looked enthusiastic about coming here, and I want to give him that chance because he was enthusiastic.
Trevor, I mean, 26 is hitting your peak, really, isn't it? I mean, you're 26 into 27. You should be at your physical peak, and yet you see Chiesa already he's just reminding me of Michael Stensgaard, if Cosy remembers him. Injured himself folding an ironing board. Liverpool's promising young reserve keeper, and then did it again months later when he recovered. I mean, we don't need a peak player hitting injury form with any frequency, do we? I mean, 12 million may not be a lot, but it's still 12 million we can't spend on anybody else. 12 million maybe pays for most wages for the 3 years we should be signing up for, like yesterday. But we can't do that now because we've invested in a player who's already in the treatment table. And it's not like he got tackled for a bad injury. Like, it's not like he got his knee taken out by Jordan Pickford and nothing was done about it by a corrupt referee. Just to call back to the start. See how we did that? We're on the ball, folks. But Trevor, I mean, like, we should not be seeing these incidents with a peak age player, should we?
No, and that was kind of what kind of threw me off about the whole transaction as a whole. Yes, he got, I think, his best goal haul in his career his last year with Juventus, and I don't want to say coddled. That's to a pejorative term, but he was managed very well by Juventus his last year there, and they kind of got the best out of him and made sure that there wasn't a reoccurrence of the injury that really derailed his career up until that point. And I thought that the price tag for him, it was just a gigantic red flag for me. It was just, what are they going to do with a guy that just had his best goal tally and was able to kind of bring them back up from the depths where they were, and they're just willing to get rid of him for that? And yeah, we can bust out the old Cersei tinfoil hats of just what's going on, who knows what are you not telling me, Jack? And then there's so much to really just run around with Chiesa, and I think in the end it's something where it may just be him as a player for everything. And I agree with Brian. His enthusiasm, all those introduction videos, he looked like a kid that just got finally told he could go down the water slide, it's like, you're not tall enough yet. But this year, this is the year you get to go down the water slide and you're going to have the best time of your fucking life. And he was just every single photo shoot, ear to ear grin. He was loving it. And for it to kind of just be this start-stop stuttering thing, there's no real, like, what his true injuries are. It's kind of almost like hockey, vague descriptions. It's like lower body, upper body shit. And you're like, well, is it something that has lingered from before? Is it something new? And there's never, at least from what I've seen, there's never just been that like definitive of it happened here and now he can't do this. I want it to work just because the cost of it against, if he is in just full form, even if it's from a year from now, because we talk about his age and how that prime can kind of come in there. Even if it ends up being a year from now that he is back to 100% full fitness, that's a person that can absolutely be a game changer. And I want that to happen. I want my analogy to be thrown at my face like a fucking pie from a clown. Like, eat this, dummy. And I don't think that we're there yet, because just any single time that he has the chance of like coming back, there's like, we will reevaluate. The term reevaluate gives me nothing but trepidation that you either A, don't know what the fuck's wrong with him, or B, are trying to downplay how long he's going to be out.
Trevor mentions reevaluating, but it seems to me that the scouting people should have evaluated him in the first place and seen what his injury history was, because they do have access to these things. Did we not do our due diligence with this player, do you think, or is he just incredibly unlucky?
No, I think we did our due diligence. I think we knew exactly what we were getting. I think it was all so harsh. He's worth a punt at 10 million quid. Let's get it right. 10 million quid for Liverpool is something that you can find at the back of the sofa if they really want to. He's worth a punt. His age is right. He has injuries. Okay. The one thing, Liverpool lads, that we need to realise is that Liverpool are 5 points clear at the top of the table. You know, why rush? Why are we rushing? Why would you rush him back? If the lad needs to get fit to get to a level that can contribute to Liverpool, we don't need him right now. He's not even needed. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be fine.
Yeah,
I think
if he needs to wait till next year, absolutely. If it's something where you can't find that maintenance in the meantime, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Do not rush him back under any instance.
And there's a part here as well. And I think with Chiesa, I think the manager's being really smart. I think they are being smart with him. I think they are luck as well. In 2-3 years, if you get a tune out of Chiesa, saying 3 years' time, you're probably selling 40 million back to fucking Juventus or something daft. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the kind of club that they are. They sound like Moise Keane back from Everton and stuff like that. The reason why they were letting go at Juventus, and I know someone mentioned before about a red flag. He had a year left on his deal, didn't want to sign a new deal. Motta comes in. Motta kind of just blows everyone out and goes, I'm fucking starting again. I think he goes with Thuram. I think it's Thuram, Locatelli, and Koopmeiners in the midfield. By the way, the same Koopmeiners, I think, who ran us ragged at Atalanta last year. I think he played centre mid for Atalanta, and he was unbelievable for them when he battered us. And it does Yildiz on the wing, Tim Weir, and then Vlahovic up front. So there's nowhere really for him to play in any way if he would have signed a deal. But going back to the Chiesa part here, gents, I do think that we've got a player. I do think he could be a player for Liverpool, but I don't see any need to rush him. It doesn't make any sense to me. Just let the lad come back when he wants to come back or when he can come back. Liverpool are 5 points clear at the top of the table. He is not a needed football player right now. If Liverpool was suffering with 3 injuries up front right now, I think I'd be a bit more, do us 20 minutes, pal. Any chance you've got 15 in you? Any chance you want to go down to Southampton and play this League Cup game? Because I don't want to send none of the big fucking boys down there. I think I'd have a bit more of that. But as of right now, with the position that Liverpool in, Liverpool can afford time, which is really handy to have. and I do think that he's going to contribute back in this season, I think.
Let me ask you this, cause before we start wrapping up, though, did we not have this conversation with Alberto Aquilani?
Alberto, to be fair though, he was signed injured.
I'm just seeing it.
The one thing I'd say though, he was signed injured, wasn't he? Aquilani. He was signed, and we knew he was injured. And we sold Alonso the same summer and signed Aquilani. So everyone's head just goes, oh, he's the Alonso replacement. Do you know what I mean? What? That doesn't make sense. But going back to the Italian thing, and I mentioned this in the summer, I do think there is a thing where Italian players can't play in the Prem, and not many are that successful. I think the best player to ever play is Italian, probably in the league, is Zola, who played for the middle-of-the-road Chelsea side at the time. They weren't challenging for the title, that Chelsea side. And then you look at players, Di Matteo was very good. Same kind of thing, though. Vialli was good, but same kind of thing for Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? There's not many who come and really break the mold from the Italian league who are Italians. So I think we have time with him, and I think he's going to be super successful. I really do. But before we go, how many fucking points do the Reds win in this league, man?
Hey, Balotelli broke the mold of what a real football is supposed to be like.
But playing a serious chat to you, fella, is it going to be 15 or 20 points?
That we're going to win the league, boy.
Yeah.
No. It's going to be 10, and it's going to be 10 to give Arsenal and Chelsea resurgent and City a bit of hope near the end, because Arnie Slot's a tactician, and he goes, you can catch us up. No, you can't catch us up.
Yeah,
I'm just joking with you.
Whichever team is playing Everton towards the end to relegate, they're the ones that we're going to keep in there. You know
we're going to keep those in. Yeah. But I think Chiesa looks fantastic when we've seen him. He does look like he has a lot that's going to cause trouble to the league. But we've just had this conversation before in my book with Naby Keita, with Thiago. When's he going to play? He's great when he plays, but he never did, and I just worry about that because the upside.
I think Anon's left the chat. You can.
Oh, okay. I can talk 40 now. But I think the upside is so good. You don't want it to be just a stutter step all the time. And the upside for Chiesa is fantastic by the looks of things. But some players just never figure out the physical side of the Premier League, and it'd be a shame if he's one of those.
What do you think, though, lads? Like in the League Cup final, do you reckon the Reds will bring out the Premier League title at the same time? Because that's when we're going to win.
I think what they'll do is they'll bring Bobby Clark back to bring out the Premier League.
Oh, don't get me started about Bobby Clark.
I tell you right now, if you offer the manager a Bobby Clark, he'd love a Bobby Clark right now.
Oh yeah, he would love a Bobby Clark.
I think he's made a massive mistake with his midfield, and I think he knows.
Oh, absolutely. I
reckon when he went to Brighton, his head fell off. I reckon in that League Cup game, I reckon he went, I could really do with a Bobby Clark. I could really do with the Stefan Bajcetic right now to do me half an hour. You know what I mean?
Bobby Clark. Although to be fair, I would have liked his dad when his dad was a player as well. He was a good player. He was a good player. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Although he did look like he was going to break into your car after the match. If you remember.
Yeah, he was very much a 90s football.
Yeah, very much a 90s footballer. Yeah, that's a hat trick to me. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to take your lad at there, please. Thanks.
It sounded like he moved to Newcastle because the signing on fee was just crates of Newcastle Brown Ale.
Yeah, that's it.
His signing on fee was he got to take all the tape decks from the VIP parking spot.
That's what it was. Yeah, the very first CD players for cars and the car phones. But yeah, with that said, it's time for us to all go beddy, boys. There's no fantasy league show this week because it is International Week where there's no real football being played. A big thank you to Cozzy for hopping on and entertaining as always, and saving him from family life because who wants family life? Chiesa.
He
does. And Brian and Trevor, as always. Clearly, obviously, no game this weekend, so we'll be back tomorrow morning with the morning coffee and then the Monday pod and everything else that goes with it.
I'm on that as well. I forgot about that. Fuck.
Yeah. Getting overtime now, Cozzy. But if you're with us,
you gotta put on your timesheet. You gotta use the proper charge codes.
Don't you guys get paid? Oh, that's weird. I get paid. I didn't.
I get paid in donuts. And well, big thank you to Mary Slade White and Spencer Stewart. Spencer's always liking us on Facebook every week. We like to see it. We want to see more of it. And if you want to do all that kind of stuff, you can follow us on the YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, formerly known as X, if you haven't left it already. And then Patreon, where Cozzy, myself, and Tamuchin are supposed to be doing some extra shows that are always fun, but we never get around to it.
Hey, I want to give a shout out.
I'll be there sometime. I'll be there.
Hey, and I'll give a shout out to Mary Slade White. She's my sister-in-law. So
there you go. There you go.
And if you like the show, you get entered into a competition to go on a night out with Trevor, which clearly is.
Right. And it's planned.
You're not going to have a good time. I can tell you that. It's going to be. You're going to win, but you're going to lose in the same regard. It's
just like the house Martin said in Happy Hour.
We've won, but at what cost?
You know what I mean? What cost?
Yeah.
The loss of dignity, I believe it's called. But for everybody else, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoying the internationals that do happen. It's Ireland, England on Sunday, I believe. So nobody cares about that. Well, I don't. We're going to lose anyway.
I can't wait not to tune in.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to do something completely different, like wash my hair. But
that one rogue one needs a one rogue one conditioning
and a gelling. We will see everybody next Thursday, and probably that'll be the last one for 2 weeks because I will be too full of potatoes and dessert on Thanksgiving Thursday night. There'll be no show for it that night. I'll tell you that much. But for next week, because it's International Week until then, I think we might have a special type of show. We've done Britpop already, and we've done movies. We'll see what we can come up with for then. But until that time, peace out, everybody. Here's the new 70s porn.